Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. My name is Marco and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 3 best dividend paying ETFs that you can consider adding to your portfolio for the long term. Just as a side note, this video is sponsored by SimpliSafe and we'll get to that in a minute here. So dividend investing is a great way to build a large nest egg or a potential stream of income in retirement. However, most people don't want to burn the midnight oil and take all the time or effort to pick individual stocks. So what we have here is the beauty of the ETF. So if you don't know what an ETF stands for, that simply stands for Exchange Traded Fund. And all that is essentially a basket of stocks that tracks or mimics a certain benchmark. So in this video, we're going to talk about 3 ETFs with a bonus ETF at the end of the video. And there's going to be certain criteria for each ETF. I'm going to go over the description and strategy of the ETF. I'm going to go over the MSCI ESG Analytics Rating. And if you don't know what that is, I'll explain in the video. And then each ETF, we're going to talk about their dividend yield, their expense ratio, the number of holdings, their top 10 sectors, and also their top 10 holdings. Stay tuned. Okay, number 1 is ticker symbol VYM. This is Vanguard's High Dividend Yield ETF. This basically mimics the FTSE High Dividend Yield Index, and it basically tracks US-based companies that are not REITs, and it weights them by market cap. So if you don't know what a REIT is simply a real estate investment trust, and I would be wary of investing in those right now depending on the property type. So I'm actually kind of happy that this ETF does not contain any REITs at the time of this recording. So VYM offers a diversified conservative approach to getting you high yields at a low cost. So what do I mean by that? The dividend yield is 2.66%, which is pretty good. The expense ratio is 0.06%. If you don't know what an expense ratio is, this is simply the annual amount of dollars that it costs you to hold this kind of a fund. So say, for example, you have $10,000 in this fund. This fund costs you $6 a year to be invested in. If you have $100,000, it's $60 a year. If you have $1 million, it's $600, so on and so forth. That's how these funds make money, which is extremely cheap. If you want to compare that to a traditional financial advisor, they're typically 1% per year. So if you have 10 grand with the financial advisor, that's $100. You have 10 grand with this, that's $6. Big difference. The number of holdings is 391, so you're well diversified. Its top sector is healthcare, and its top holding is Johnson & Johnson at the time of this recording. Full disclosure, I personally own this in my M1 Finance portfolio. If you want to check it out, take a look at the link below. If you want my free training on M1 Finance, take a look at the link below. Again, this is a sponsored video by SimpliSafe, which we're going to get into right now. I do not do any sponsorships on this channel unless I use the product personally, have my own money in it, or trust it with my life. So check out this spot by SimpliSafe. SimpliSafe on. SimpliSafe is an incredibly effective, reliable home security system that will make sure your home is safe. You just order it online or over the phone and it's delivered right to your home, and you set it up yourself in under an hour. You just stick the sensors exactly where you need them, and from there your home is professionally monitored 24/7 if anything happens. They'll make sure the police gets called. They've got sensors to cover every window, room, and door, and plus a lot of great extras like water sensors, temperature sensors, and HD cameras. You can see a sensor right there. It's all really easy to use, and you get around-the-clock protection for just 50 cents a day with no contracts. They've even won US News and World Report's Best Overall Home Security System of 2020. So the reason I chose to get SimpliSafe is because I believe in the product. Otherwise, I wouldn't have them as a sponsor on the channel. This is my entire business right here, you guys. You can see the video portion and also the audio portion right here. This is a company that I believe in and I use daily. The setup process was super easy. You basically just install the home base right here, pretty much where your door is. This is the door to my studio. You got this right here. You can set it if you're at home, if you're away. And this whole process took about 40 minutes, if I remember correctly. You just stick the sensors, which you can see right here. This is a sensor for the window. So if this window is opened while it's armed, that'll actually notify the police. Same thing with this right here. This is a microphone that knows when glass shatters, that'll actually notify the police as well. So you can see here, this is the base station. This is kind of like the brain of the operation that talks to the thing by the door over there. And then you can arm it with the keypad. You also have other things like temperature sensors. So if you live in a cold climate or you live in a hot climate, This will actually prevent your pipes from freezing if your HVAC or your heat goes out. So basically, you can see here that if you want to actually look at the sensors and how they work, if I were to open this door right here, you can hear that right there beeping. That's that sensor right there. So basically, this whole property is covered. So I actually have a funny story, and let me disarm this. I'm going to get this off camera real quick. My wife didn't know I installed this, and when she came into the studio, the cops actually came because she didn't know the code. So it absolutely does work. So I just wanted to show you guys this system. I'm still using it a year later, and I'm still incredibly happy with SimpliSafe. Okay, number 2 is ticker symbol SCHD. This is the Schwab's US Dividend Equity ETF. This is a solid ETF because it only invests in companies that have at least a 10-year track record of paying out dividends. So you can't even be included in this ETF if you haven't consistently paid out dividends for 10 years or more. So basically the MSCI rating, as we mentioned earlier, is 6.25. This is pretty strong. That gives it an A. And if I didn't allude to this earlier, the rating basically goes from triple C, which is the worst, all the way to triple A, which is the best. So the last 2 funds, VYM and SCHD, have a grade A, which is very good. You can see here that the dividend yield is 2.22%, which is healthy. The expense ratio is also 0.06%, 6 basis points. That's very good, very cheap. The number of holdings is 93, so significantly less than VYM. And it's basically the top 10 sectors. Number 1 is consumer non-cyclical. So if you don't know what consumer non-cyclical is, think of your toothpaste, your shampoos, your soaps, things that are going to be bought whether the economy is doing good or not. These are typically recession-resistant products and recession-resistant companies. And to prove that point, its top holding is actually UPS, the delivery service. So if you saw what happened during the pandemic, people were ordering on Amazon and e-commerce more than ever just because they weren't going out to the store. So you can see why this could be a number 1 holding of the ETF at the time of this recording. Okay, number 3 is OG, Original Gangster, Triple OG, VIG. If you don't know what an OG is, that first sentence probably made no sense and you're just staring at your screen right now, not even laughing. The people that understand what I just said are probably at least cracking a smile. So VIG, a lot of war stories. He's been through a lot of, things on the block. He's, I'm gonna edit all this out. No, I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it. This is my channel. Let's go, dude. VIG is an OG. Full disclosure, I personally hold VIG. The reason I hold VIG is obviously not for the dividend yield. It's a lot smaller than VYM's, but they're also focused on the companies that have raised their dividends for 10 years. However, it's also focused on dividend growth. So if you actually pair this up against VYM, this has outperformed VYM even when you consider the yield as well. So the MSCI rating is incredibly safe at 7.03. The dividend yield is a little bit lower than what we've seen so far at 1.82%. The expense ratio is the same at 0.06%. The number of holdings is 225. You can see here that the top sector is actually consumer cyclical. So if you don't know what consumer cyclical is, this is actually cars, airlines, casinos. All this stuff sounds incredibly risky, especially with everything that's happened with the pandemic, right? Well, hopefully these things will bounce back, and that's why VIG could be seen at a slight discount prior to this recording, obviously in March. So with the growth component, this has actually outperformed VYM, as I mentioned, and you can see here that the top holding at the time of this recording is Microsoft, which has been a channel favorite since I started this channel. Bonus. Okay, so you stayed this long. You stayed through the SimpliSafe ad, you stayed through my dad jokes, you stayed through the non-edits and the rawness of this video. You're the real MVP. I appreciate you. That's why you are being rewarded, my friends. Check out HDV. This is iShares Core High Dividend ETF. So this basically tracks a dividend-weighted index of 75 high-yielding U.S. stocks that are basically screened for high dividend sustainability and high earnings potential, okay? So as you can see here, that leads me to believe why it has a good MSCI rating, the ESG Analytics Rating of a 6.59 out of 10. The dividend yield is one of the higher ones we've seen at 3.43. The expense ratio is 0.08, which is not much more expensive than VIG and a couple other ones. It has 75 holdings, but hold on, it's not all gravy and rainbows and unicorns. The things that concern me with this one are that its top sector, its top holding, is basically energy, which you either love or hate energy, And then its top holding is AT&T, which is a debt-laden potential disaster. So with that being said, its second biggest holding is ExxonMobil, which has been okay. I mean, it's done well with dividends, but we all know that oil is on its way out. Not anytime soon, probably not in our lifetimes. Relax. But those are the only two yellow flags for this ETF that I think. But I'm just the guy on YouTube, do your own due diligence. So let's get to the conclusion. Okay, so my thoughts, just to wrap up the video very quickly, these can all serve a purpose in your portfolio. They are all well diversified, which is simply the nature of ETFs themselves. You're buying one share and holding a basket of stocks with that one share. The other thing is that the low expense ratio on all of these is super, super cheap to own. So you can invest in this over the long term and your portfolio is not going to be destroyed by fees. I made that analogy earlier in the video with the financial advisor who's charging you 1% per year. These are all significantly less, usually 92 to 94 basis points less per year. Then finally, at the time of this recording, we're looking at the end of July, WhiteBoard actually has a promotion with 2 free stocks valued up to $1,400. If you go deposit down there, I will receive a small commission for that at no additional cost to you, and you're getting 2 free stocks. It's a win-win. If you downvoted the video because of this, that makes you a... Thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, have a prosperous day and share the video with one friend.
Oh, Marco makes a commission from recommending things. Oh, I'm gonna downvote the video. Oh.